Welcome back to movementprofessional.com. Today we're going to go over a nice workout using Indian mace here. So this is a lighter mace. Just started working out with this thing a few months back. Nick Odoriso here at Nick's gym got one, and I've been loving this thing. It is a great tool for something called circular strength. Getting stable and staying strong while you're going through a full range of motion in a circular pattern. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second. It's also very good for rotational and pivoting movements, which are often underutilized in training. So we're going to do a little bit of a workout. I'm going to show you 4 movements today. We're going to put them together in a Tabata sequence. So I'm not going to go through the full Tabata right now, but basically I just want you to see the 4 movements that we could do, and then you can put them into a Tabata sequence. For those of you who aren't familiar with Tabata, it's 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, and you do that for 4 minutes or 8 rounds. Alright, so it's a good way. Tabata is a good way, although it's a very challenging workout for conditioning. It's also a good way to practice a movement, in that you have to be able to do a lot of volume of certain movements. So it doesn't always have to be all out trying to get your heart rate up super high. It can also just be a good way to practice a movement. So if you're familiar with the movement, you can go a lot harder. If you're not so familiar with the movement, you can just practice it and just have this kind of 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off pattern as a way to start getting you more familiar with the movement. All right, so the first thing we're going to work on is a around the world 360. All right, so we're going to start with a hand on top of hand grip. So if my right hand is on top, I want to go over the right side of my head here. And to make this easier, obviously, just like a baseball bat, you just choke up on it, and now there's nowhere near as much leverage. All right, so the idea here, I'll start all the way down low, is that I want to shoot this in a kind of a faster motion to my right ear, and then I want to bring it back into the center position. So with the idea of positions and transitions, you want to understand that here is your starting position, kind of at heart center here, or maybe even a little bit lower around the diaphragm. All right, and we're going to go slow here, but you're going to want to do this movement fast. So I'm going to tilt the mace into an angle right around the shoulder and the ear, and then the other position, when we look from behind, will be that it goes vertical down my spine without me overextending. All right, and I want to do that all very fast. So you don't want to make this movement slow, but you want to understand what positions you're trying to hit. So I'm going to shoot this back, and then it's going to come right by my left ear, and I can drop down so I get back into this hands in heart center position. All right, so shoot it back, drop it down. All right, so I can do 20 seconds here, just kind of working on the technique. All right, try to make it nice and fluid. Try not to overextend. So if I look at it from the side, I'm not overextending, because I'll lose stability here. I can also cause a lot of compression in my lower back, but I tend to lose control of the mace a little bit there too. So if you're keeping control of this thing, you'll tend to have to stay tight through the midline. All right, and if you don't, you'll clip yourself in the shoulder. So this is definitely something that you want to be practiced with some other strength movements first before you get into. But for somebody that is into strength conditioning and wants to try something new, this is a great tool to use. All right, so if I'm going over to the left, I want to switch hands. So every 20-second interval, I can switch and go right, first 20, left the second 20. All right, so that's one movement. We can do that for 4 minutes. Second movement, I love this movement. To me, this is basically the best movement that you can do for a conditioning of a rotational pivot movement. All right, so it's a Gravedigger. So I'm going to start in this hip hinge position as if I'm doing a deadlift. So if you look at me from the front, the knees will be out just as if I'm doing a deadlift. But I'm going to hold on the top of the mace here. I'm going to come up and pivot forward. So the position that you want to finish in is that I'm on the ball of this back foot, slightly internally rotated through this hip, so my knee is facing forward, if not in a little bit. So I'll be almost a little pigeon-toed on that back foot. And the reason that you want to go pigeon-toed is because the biggest fault you see with this is that you leave this foot behind, creates torque in the knee. All right, so you want to make sure that you can easily weight shift, pivot through this hip, and now I'm facing forward, my belly button's facing forward. So I'm in a deadlift position, pop through the hips, strong exhale. So we can think of this as like a rotational version of something like you'd be doing with the kettlebell swing. Kettlebell swing's a lot of front and back hip extension. This is going to be, I'm starting in a hip flex position, but I finish in a pivoting fashion into a rotation. So you can see the benefit of this for many things, one of them being any type of swinging activity such as golf, baseball, etc. All right, and then I would just do that on the other side. Make sure that you can feel the balance. So start slow with this movement, all right, because if you're doing a bunch real fast and you're leaving the leg behind, you'll torque your knee, it can cause a lot of injury that way, but you're also just not getting the benefit of the movement. The benefit of the movement is to get full internal rotation through this hip, and that's where you get power actually from your midline staying tight. That's where you're going to be able to drive a ball farther, whether you're playing baseball, etc. All right, next movement's going to be mace overhead squats. So we're going to start with the mace behind the head, and then we're going to come down and do a squat where the mace comes in front. All right, so we're just going down. We can circle it back around, and then it comes back to the front. So I'm circling it over the right ear, and then bringing it down from the left, and it finishes right in front of my face. All right, so I'm going to do it the other way. I have the left hand on top. I'll start behind the head, come down. When I go back up, I circle it as if I'm doing the 360, and then I come back down into the squat. Circle, down, circle, chop it down. All right, so it's sort of like a 360, just adding a squat movement to it. You can do the same idea with a lunge next. All right, so the lunge is going to be starting behind, lunge in front of the face, lunge in front of the face. All right, then I could switch and do the other leg, other hand position. Take your time with this one, just so you get the timing down, so you don't whack yourself on the way down. You'll find with this type of training that your hand, your grip, get amazingly strong really quick. You'll feel that you can basically get water out of a brick when you're done working out. All right, so the hands they're feeling incredibly strong. It's common practice for mixed martial artists to train with maces, and you can see why, because they need those grappling hands to be able to control people. All right, so you got 4 movements that you can start working out with. If you can grab yourself a mace or find someone who can train you in a mace, you got the around the world, the Gravedigger, the squat, and the lunge. Enjoy.